my folder. It's pretty scary stuff.
I was gonna say, I think it's pretty scary stuff.
What's Coventry's position on this whole mess?
They haven't really taken it.
They haven't?
I know most of the people that live there that I've talked to, they have water problems. Your brother lives there.
Yes. He goes to the dump every Friday morning. Him and Mo.
You hold that up for 1 second.
He thinks they're doing a great job. He thinks they're doing a great job. The liner is perfect. They showed us this, and they're showing you just what you
They
want.
look fine from the sky.
Yeah.
It's
Can't see it from my house.
It's underneath them that's the problem.
I do.
I don't get into it with him because.
I don't. I mean,
Well, people that
I don't really know, but I hauled up there. Hauled material for different people, and I'll tell you, it's quite a process putting that line. It's a double liner, and I watched them put it in. You put in so much sand is compacted, and the liner goes in, and then so much sand again, and the liner goes. Another liner goes in, and it's a pretty thick liner.
Yeah.
It's quite a process. It really is, and it's a freaking deep hole. I'm telling you, when they dig it.
Well, and then they mount it.
Oh
They get high, they go.
I know.
All right,
Yep.
it's 5:30, according to AT&T. Call the meeting to order. First item up is the introduction of everybody here. I'm Steve Barrett, Chair of the Select Board.
Jerry Waterman.
Rick Russell.
Charlie Pronto.
Jeff Johansson.
Jane and Barry Shea.
And Bob Best.
He already said it. All right, I need a motion to approve the minutes of October 4th.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes of 10-4 meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion, addition, corrections, or errors?
I didn't see anything.
I didn't see any errors.
Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Abstentions, me, wasn't here, so. The minutes are approved. Next item up is appearances by local citizens and visitors. Is there anyone that wants, Barry's on here for his stuff, but is there anyone else that would like to speak? Just so I can allot the appropriate amount of time.
I mean, other than.
Right, you are on the agenda
Right.
specifically.
Yep.
So here's an agenda if you want one.
Okay, Barry, you're up.
Okay, let's get one of these mics back here. Test. Yeah, I'm, last meeting there was a mention of something I'd like to bring up. And Mike, I'm gonna be making lots of references to your company. I feel that we've had a gross lack of transparency, and everyone's asking questions. People's questions are not being answered. So I did my research, and I'm going to give a professional opinion. And I can say professional opinion because of my credentials. And I'm just going to go through them real quick. I went to business school in around 1970. I studied accounting and business law. I've had 3 companies. I've owned 3 companies. I've been a Google partner. I know business well. One of my jobs is to see through companies quickly, everything about them. I do that. So I did that to your company. So I got lots of numbers. We didn't get anything. And Denise said last time I mentioned conflict of interest, and she said, well, it's really not a conflict of interest. The people voted it in. That's true. The people did vote in the ambulance contract, but the people didn't have any information. They had a lack of and some misleading information, and they voted on that. So I would like to make sure that they know what the hell they're voting for this time. First of all, the first thing that most people don't realize, and I've heard this over and over, that the ambulance company has a service contract, last year $46,000, and they make service calls. Most people in this town, I've heard it over and over, they think the service contract, $46,000, is paying for the service calls. It is not. The service calls are billed by them to your insurance company or whatever. So they make, like last year or 2016 or something, I got some numbers. I may be a little off, but not too far. 46, well, I don't know what they made. Okay, let me quote what happened last year. I'm seeing $46,000 for the service contract, another 100,000 approximately, give or take, for the service calls. So they make a total of 150,000, give or take, and that's it. Not 46,000. The 46,000 does not go to the service calls. They're billed separately, and you will have to pay a deductible. They will bill you if you don't have 100% coverage. I don't know even what they charge. I'd like to know what they charge, a minimum and a maximum. We don't even know what they charge, and we need to know what they charge because, as in myself, I'm on Medicare. There is a 20% deductible. So if he comes and he pays $1,000, if he charges $1,000, he's going to send me a bill for $200. So everyone's got to know that they're getting paid twice most of the time for anybody that doesn't have coverage, 100% coverage. So they're making all of that money, and I want everyone to know. Now what are they doing with that money? I'll talk about that in a minute. But let me see here. So that's one of the things. And what are they doing with that money? So they tell us they're going to use it to pay employees and everything, but according to their contract, they're using it to expand their business. That's what they're doing. To quote unquote. Let's see. Funds shall be used to sustain growth for the division. So they're using it to expand their company. Their company is very big. They make about $2 million a year. They spend $100,000 on employees, and they have problems. They've already said it. They have industry problems. I understand that. I went through it myself, and I sympathize. Now, however, each year for the past 2 years, we've got $10,000 to $20,000 increases. Now, this year, they've already made it public in the Newport Daily Express. There's going to be a substantial increase in the service contracts. He's got a number there. We're going to find out about that shortly. So I don't think it's healthy. We don't know these facts. We need to know more facts about what they're doing. Voters have to be informed to vote. If they have the misleading information that the service contract is what's paying for their rides, and they think they won't if they don't pay the $46,000, they don't vote it in, then they won't get ambulance services. People think that too. No, you'll get ambulance services. I think another thing is we have no alternatives. He comes in, he's got a plan. There's no competition. So I think, and I brought it up last meeting, I think it's time. I think they have crossed the threshold of charging more than it would actually cost to start a company ourselves. So I would like to see if we can put that alternative on the table, just so he's still going to go in and he'll probably win the vote again, but for the future maybe. So what I have done is I have drawn up a business plan, and I think I nailed pretty much every expense that has to be to have an ambulance company. Everything, the fees to incorporate, and the EMS person, the driver, the vehicle. I did it, and it came out not too bad. It came out around 100,000, and now on the table is 150,000. The select board pays $46,000, and there's another 100 grand in service calls. So technically, if someone in this town wanted to start an ambulance company, they could compete and bid against the NAS. I think that's important to put it on the alternative on the table. So I'm putting it out that I think someone in the town should do this. I think someone in the town should do it. And as of now, on my website is full details of how to start an ambulance company, all resources of the people that you need to talk to. There's a business plan with every single expense. And I think somebody could come up last meeting. Jerry and Rick said, yeah, you know, if they want to come and put it up, we'll put it on the meeting if they have the right requirements and stuff. You know what I mean? And that's encouragement. I mean, I don't mean to say nothing, Mike, but competition is part of business and its life. And it's not good when there's no alternatives and no competition. It gives you free rein to charge whatever you want. So I think it is healthy at this time. I mean, no disrespect for you. I do feel for you that you're going through industry changes. But I'll tell you what I learned. I lost my business from industry changes. And I did the same thing as you. I shook down everyone for a lot of money. And you know what I found out? You got industry changes, you better change. And I'll tell you what, they're not going to get better. Trump wants to get rid of insurance. It's going to get worse. So you're going to come back here next year and the year after. You know, I need another 10,000 because of this, and I need another 10,000 because of that. You know, like, and over and over. Another thing, quid pro quo. You ever hear of that? He keeps coming in asking for more and more money. What do we get? Anything? We get the service, yes. But do we get a better deal? How about for a better deal? How about he eliminates sending bills for deductibles? To give the, you know, you're asking for a lot of money from us. How about doing that for us? Would you consider that? I didn't think so. Okay, you know, I mean, so there's a lack of, you know, like we'll give you, you know, you just don't take and not get back. It's an essential part of business. Quid pro quo, something for something. When someone wants more money, what are you going to give us? He's just going to do the same thing as last year. And, you know, I mean, I'm not putting him down, but this is the fact of life, of business. You know what I mean? So that's another consideration. But I would like anybody that wants to start the ambulance company to come to the next meeting and let's discuss it. I mean, just, you know, it's an open meeting, you can do it, and we can toss it around. You know what I mean? But I think, and another thing about this, it doesn't have to happen this year. We can plan it all for next year, depending, whatever his number is. His number might be shocking today. So we're going to find that out. You know what I mean? So once again, I have full details, all the resources, a breakdown of all the expenses, the business plan on my website. I'll throw it on Facebook, and anyone can go there and look. I think it's healthy to have an alternative. And I by no means mean you any disrespect. It's just business. And I just, I'll tell you what, we all know Ernest Charquette. He's a multimillionaire. And when I first started hanging with him in the beginning, he said one thing that applies to this. He wanted to put up some money and help get the water meters going and everything. And he said, you know what? Once you start giving money, they never stop asking. So this is what we have with the 3 years in a row, we're going to get increases. So that means, I'm going to assume it's going to happen next year, the year after, each year. Well, we had this problem, that problem. And, you know, and we're a small town. Does anyone care? 1,600 people. How many people actually have full insurance in this town, or insurance at all for this town? And their taxes will increase. It's going to increase. He gets help for his company. We get an increase in taxes and a deductible bill if you go to the ambulance and don't have 100%. So we need a little more for me to feel better from this deal instead of just another increase and another increase and another increase. This is a fact of life. And so having said that, I'll leave that. But I would like people to consider that it's very possible to start a business, a company of our own for this town that'll last forever. And maybe we can still contract with him with a mutual benefit contract or something. I know it's not as much money, but I know you wouldn't refuse it if it got through, went through, was voted in, an ambulance company. If we come up and say, yeah, we'll give you 10 grand for a mutual to cover some of the times we can't do it, you wouldn't refuse it. But anyway, that's a long way off, and it's doable, it's possible, and I would like everyone and also the select board to consider it. And I ask the select board in respect. to not vote anything in of what he does today. There's no rush. Can you give it some time so we can have more discussion on transparency, for the people to vote more and, possibly someone to come forward and discuss, I would like to do the ambulance contract, and maybe you can consider just listening to them. There's no rush. Please don't vote it in today. Give it another month. We can toss it around, or if someone can come forward. I ask you respectfully, there's no rush. He's still under contract for a few months. It's not asking a lot. I think the people deserve that. Having said that, one more thing, a couple more things. What's going on with the water meters? When are they going to start billing us? Is that almost there?
My understanding, we'll put them in, but they're not gonna bill for a while.
And they're not going to bill for a while?
So when we're told you're gonna get billed, then I'll know. I have no
Told
idea.
by who?
It's the select board and whoever.
Okay, what is the delay then? I mean, everyone's anxious.
Well, I don't know.
I'll answer the
Thank
question.
you.
You're welcome. We had a meeting today with Paul that put in the meters, his company, and closed out that end of the bond. So that's all taken care of. Jason from Aldrich and Elliott and Associates was here.
When was this? I didn't know about this meeting. Was it announced?
Oh, no, it was just our monthly water meeting with the USDA and Aldrich and Elliott.
It's a meeting.
Oh, it's not a select board meeting. It's not.
Because all meetings, they must be warned.
No, not if it's just they meet here. It's just all the people, all the players in there. It's nothing to do with the town, really.
There's a quorum here? How many selectmen were there?
Just one.
Okay, that's good. All right, I would have liked to go, that's all. So I was just wondering, okay, skip it, that's all.
Thank you. We met with Misty from the USDA was here, Jason, I don't know what his last name is, and then Paul. We've closed out, signed the rest of the documents. We had a 100% completion on the installation of meters in the town. That's very good, and the process went very well. I did bring up that about the putting the meters in play and the billing process. Mike and I had attended a water rates setting class on October 4th. That's why I wasn't here at the last board meeting. I was coming back from Burlington. It was an all-day thing on how to set water rates. And one of the recommendation from USDA, also from our engineer, and from the class that we took, is to set the proper rates, you need to have the most information possible. They recommend that you go at least a minimum of 1 year of recording the data prior to setting any rates. And if you can go 2 years, you'll even get a better rate structure.
Oh, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad.
But that was the
That's terrible.
recommendation before we even did it.
That is
I
correct.
mean, it's only a recommendation. How about taking into consideration the extra water bill we paid out within for 2 years? I mean, we need a break. That's not taken into consideration. You're trying to save the money. Where was that attitude when the water bill was increased? I think you owe it to the people to do it soon as possible. It sucks. We have to pay another 2 years that inflated double water bill when you got the rates in. Why can't you just come up with a rate, and if it's not working, change it, so we can have a break from that lousy $300 every quarter.
Yeah, it's
Doesn't that make sense?
It's too.
The USDA is not taking our people into consideration. They're just going, well, this is the way it's usually done. You can save the money. I mean, give me a break. You can do that same thing while giving us the break, while giving us a break from that $300.
I'm telling you what the recommendations
Correct?
were.
Okay, so do you have to go by that recommendation?
That is something that we can discuss.
Yeah, I'd like to.
But I'm feeling that after attending the class and seeing how rate structures are put in place, that it is imperative that you do it with all of the information and you don't shoot from the hip. If it's shooting from the hip to feel good, that is not doing respect to the public.
That's exactly what was done when our water bill was increased. Shot from the hip.
Is Newport City metered now? Do you pay based on a meter? Do you know? Not yet.
100%.
Not yet, right?
Some people are metered, some aren't. The ones that are metered are paying on a meter. I don't know exactly how it works. but
No.
I'm not. I
You're
get a
not?
quarterly bill.
You get a better rate if you're metered than you do if you're not metered.
Yeah, I think you have to pay for the meter. I'm not exactly
No,
sure.
Newport City was putting the meters in for free.
For a while.
Um,
They're not anymore.
yeah, I don't know if they're, yeah.
Mm.
All apartment buildings were.
Yeah.
It was a
I
trial.
don't know
Yeah,
what the
they
rate
said
is,
the
'cause I'm
the
not
reasoning
metered yet.
to, the reasoning according to the class, according to what I heard and everybody, is that what happens is when people first get water meters, of course, they're gonna, oh boy, they're gonna conserve water. And then as time goes on, people are gonna get more lax and use more water.
Well, they're
So
gonna be paying.
that's the purpose of gathering the data for 1
Yeah,
year.
it's based
The
on-
minimum is a year, they said
All businesses
2 years
are.
is a stretch.
Yeah.
But after a year, we can come up with a pretty decent rate structure. So-
But you can
If
always
you're-
change it. I mean, you're getting the information as you go along. If all of a sudden
Very.
they're making too much, they're using too much water, we're using too much water, we can change the rate. I mean, we need a break. 2 years? That's bull. That's bad. 2 years or more, we got to pay it. Everyone's thinking, yeah, the meters are in. We're going to get a break. 2 years. We're talking thousands and thousands of dollars that we had to pay that we could have used to buy a car, whatever. And now we're going to have to do it for another 2 years. I'm disturbed by this. I think you should consider doing it sooner, just a few months or something. 2 years because, because they have a graph or something. You can change it at any time. You people have the power to change it. Give us a break. Say cut it down to 6 months or 2 years, even 1 year. I think that's your way to go. I mean, and you don't even know yet. You haven't decided whether it's going to be 1 or 2 years, 1 year, 1 or 2 years. So we're up in the air. Everyone's waiting for this, including me. You know what I mean? That's why I'm so much on top of this ambulance contract. We're going to have another burden, another tax burden. You know what I mean? And I don't want to be 80 years old and be without income, and the taxes increase so much that it's hurting. So that's that. You know what I mean? Okay, I would. I'm disturbed that you don't even know. You haven't even decided. You know what I mean? And you're not taking the people into consideration once again. Like the same thing when the increase was, people weren't taken into consideration. We didn't even get an explanation of why it really was dragged out for 4 years. It's the same thing all over again. We get no break.
You got 4 minutes, Barry.
Yeah, 4 minutes. Well, I'm not done yet.
What are
Anyway.
other towns, isn't there a general rate?
Every,
I'm
Jane,
curious, I don't know.
And-
Like Troy, can I answer that? Because I just had a
Yeah.
talk with that. Like the town of Troy, just within the last 2 years, did exactly what we're doing now. And they monitored, they went about a year.
Yeah, but what do they generally pay? That's what I'm saying. I mean,
Oh.
it must be all within the same
well,
Range.
parameters.
every community is different.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you've got more businesses
Oh,
in
yeah,
a
yeah.
community, that affects the rate structure.
I see.
If you've got more residential than commercial, such as
Apartment buildings.
apartment buildings and things like it, every community is looked at differently.
I see.
So you need to take all the information from your community and build the rate structure from that.
And you can have separate ones, like one for a residence, one for a business, one for a school,
I see.
one for a store.
This is primarily residential, this.
Yep.
Community, obviously.
Yeah, Troy just barely went through this. They just barely meted
I
within
was
the
curious.
last.
I tried to look online, I couldn't find.
I
any
found it.
information.
It could be $2, $3 to $8, anywhere in between, something like that. That's
That's a
that's
wide
just a-
range.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, like he said, it's different circumstances, but
Yeah.
it could be as low as $2. That would be nice. But
I doubt that.
yeah, I don't think so either. I'm skeptical on whether it will happen at all. That's what bothers me.
Well, our bills should be less because a lot of the loans got paid off this year, so that'll be good. You're replacing it with one loan as opposed to
Are
2 or 3.
you done?
No, I'm not done. I got one more thing to say. I've decided this is off. I've been struggling with video minutes for a couple of years now, and now it's finally into play. I finally find the right softwares and combination of work that I can do to easily do it. So all the no longer will I be publishing full videos on the website. It will be correspond directly with the agenda. I cut it and I cut it so you can go, when you go on to the minutes on my website, it will have agenda 1 and a video for that specific spot, one after the next after the next. So if you need to quote something that you heard someone say or an issue, you can go to the minutes and just look for the agenda item, and usually they're only 10 or 15 minutes, and if you have to look for it within that, it's searching between 10 minutes and 15 minutes, which is a piece of cake. Otherwise, if you go a 1 hour, 2 hour video, to sift through it and find something is like agony. Anyway, that's it. That's for me. Thank you for listening, and proceed.
Thank you, Barry. Next item up we got is respectful language communication during public meetings. And I've got some rules that I think we should adopt for our select board meetings here, and they are Robert's Rules of Order, and as a simplified ground rules adaptation of treating everybody respectful, not talking when someone else is talking, acknowledge when you'd like to speak, and I think we should adopt them. If we adopt these, I'd like to post these out in front office and we will follow them in the future. And I know there's nothing I can do legally about what anybody wants to do, but if I hear, or any of the select board members hear something that is derogatory towards other individuals or people, then I think we should suspend the meeting and direct the secretary to record exactly what was said, so that the meeting minutes will reflect whatever is being said out there. And maybe that will bring some accountability to what people do say. Any discussion? I gave you guys each a copy of that, and I've got some here that can go out there. You think that's a good idea? We'll just direct the clerk to post that out there, and we'll try to follow them.
I make the motion to adapt it.
I'll second it.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Great. Thank you.
Can I have what you want? Okay. You want this just posted on the wall, I think?
There's a one on the other
So I
side.
could put the Robert's Rules in.
Yep.
Sure. Side it.
One's a simplified version, so you don't have to read through a whole bunch of crap. Next item up is Newport Ambulance is going to present their budget to us. Charlie, come sit at the table with us. And Jeff, Jeff can too.
So I don't know.
Is Jeff taking Mike's place?
Yes, he is. I was just
Okay.
going to introduce you. Jeff is now the Chief Operating Officer for Newport Ambulance Service. Mike is done in May.
Oh, he is?
Jeff, this has been a process that's been going on for about 2 years, so he's not new to it. And we are excited to have Jeff on. He's pretty much been taking over the lead here for a while now, and he's doing a great job, and we're fortunate to have him. So
Great.
So you're going to be dealing with Jeff now the way you were dealing with Blake.
Okay.
And
Enough room, Charlie?
go from there. Yeah. Actually, I have copies of it, but I don't know if you printed. Did you get it?
I did not print them out.
But you did get it.
Uh-huh.
So you're gonna do
I did. You just be
You want-
quiet. I take my food.
Anybody else want one? I have one more.
I'd like one, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I do have one of those. I've got my own over here somewhere.
Derby's contracted with you guys now?
So, want short version or long version? Basically what I did, we had a meeting this week with
I
a
know.
bunch of town people on Tuesday and stuff, so.
And I just figured I didn't need to go listen to it there and then listen to it.
Listen here, yeah. So I can, what I did there, I'll basically do the same thing here. A lot has happened in a year. So, I'd like to go, just kind of explain what Newport Ambulance Service has evolved to in the last year before we get into the budget stuff. Last year, at one point, we had come to you guys, you were part of that meeting, and we were trying to bring Derby aboard, and it was gonna save everybody some money to do that, and then they did not. They chose not to, and then so we came with a contract with just Newport Town and Coventry.
And then a month later, they decided.
Well, about 2 months later, yeah, they decided that, well, they didn't have much choice. Their ambulance service, blew up. So we took Derby on. About a month later, we took part of Charleston, part of Morgan on. About 3 or 4 weeks later, we took Holland on. And the way it was drawn up is half of Charleston, half of Morgan were serviced by Linden Rescue, who was also serving Brighton Rescue. So after, I think it was about March, we had Holland, part of Charleston, part of on. And, so we're constantly adjusting our budget to absorb them. And our thought process at that point was they didn't have a service. We were not going to leave them high and dry. We tried to figure out a way to do it. We had a lot of meetings. I was in Florida. I was meeting by not Skype. I guess it was Skype. I don't know what that FaceTime, whatever that is. An awful lot with towns and people and our boards and all that kind of stuff while I was down there. So then we got that all straightened around, and then the next thing Linden Rescue, you probably read all this in the paper, but Linden Rescue comes in and says they're going to jump their prices up astronomically to Charleston, half of Charleston, half of Morgan and Brighton. And so then Morgan and Charleston came to us and said, well, can you take the whole town? Because as of, I don't know the exact dates, but let's say as of June 1st, I think was the date, that Linden was no longer covering them. Brighton, however, had a contract with them, and theirs was going to continue. So we said, yeah, we can do it. We'll do it this year. And we gave them a price, and we went and met with them and told them that the call times are going to be a little longer and all this kind of stuff. And they were okay with that. They weren't any longer than what they would be if Linden was covering them anyways, but they're long for what we consider covering. And then it turns out Linden gave Brighton, they had a 60-day out in their contract, so they gave it to them. And they told them they wanted $185,000 or something for Brighton to do Brighton. Brighton said, oh, we can't do that. So then they came back to us. So to make a long story short, about the 1st of August, we took on Brighton. So in that negotiation, we decided that the best way to handle them was to set them up as their own division of Newport Ambulance Service, so that it wasn't affecting the cost of Newport Town, Newport City, and Coventry, and Derby, because those were our four.
Something like we did in the southern section
with Lamoille and that. Okay. So we have a separate budget. So when you look at this budget, you're going to see 2019 NAS, that's Newport Ambulance Service, and you're going to say substation 2019. The substation, we divided out the cost to put a full-time crew, 24/7, in Morgan. We're in contracts now. They're going to be building a building. We're going to be having a service out there. And we are going to cover Island Pond, Charleston, Holland, Morgan from there.
Mm-hmm.
And we divvy, so they have their separate budget that goes along with that.
Which doesn't affect us at all.
Well,
Do we get to know what their budgets are?
Sure. Yep.
What are their budgets?
Well, I have it here. Yeah, I gave it to you. So.
Where? I mean, I've seen this before.
What I'd like to
They're
do, if I
labeled.
can just get
The
through
labels
the
are
scenario,
very
and get to the
unidentifiable. You know what I
Barry.
mean?
Do not interrupt.
You interrupt me plenty. Last time I was trying to talk to him, you interrupted me. We want facts.
Let,
Now, how do you read this? It says right here.
let the minutes reflect that Barry is interrupting a discussion between Newport Ambulance and the select board.
And also let it reflect that I'm gonna file a complaint about last year when you shut me off when I was trying to talk to him, and you told him to leave. We want transparency. We need answers from you. I asked you a question.
I'd be,
Well, how do you read this? You know,
I won't answer anything with a tone like that, I can tell you right now.
okay.
But I will answer
Just sign the
budget.
contract.
I will
Remember that? What
answer-
about that tone?
I will answer the budget. I
Work
talked
for
to
me.
him. I will answer the budget discussion when we get to the budget discussion. What I'd like to do is discuss where we've been
Thank you very
in the
much.
last year.
This thing
And that's
doesn't,
where it
you know,
should
it's
be.
not labeled. You don't even know what the hell this stuff is.
But he's gonna explain
I'm
it
gonna
after.
explain.
Okay, it's right from the top. Town
He's
contracts.
gonna explain it after, Barry.
$345,000. What is that?
He's
Town
gonna-
contract. How many towns? Which towns?
Barry, he's gonna explain it after.
Okay, I'll hold you to that. I want explanations. I don't want to be shut off like I was last year. Everyone in this town has misleading information and lack thereof, and you and your company want to keep the public out of it. You want them to sign a contract without even being voted on. You've tried to get that 2 or 3 times. So transparency isn't in your language of your company. That's the way I see it, and I'm not going to stand for it. I want
Barry,
transparency
we need
at
to
all
move on with our
times.
meeting, please.
Okay,
Let him finish.
okay. I want to be able to ask questions.
Let him finish.
Go ahead.
So, anyway, so what we did is that's how we divvied up the budget. So when we get to that, I'll explain how all that works. So that's where we were at. The net result of that is that when we lost Linden Rescue over in the other end, we basically lost our mutual aid because our mutual aid was coming from other areas. Well, there wasn't another area at that point. So part of putting the substation in Morgan ended up that we were providing our own mutual aid because we basically put in another division out there. So we always had a backup. In that time frame, how we accomplished that was, first of all, we bought a new ambulance. We have hired 7 additional full-time employees. We've hired 6 per diem, that's part-time, pay as you go. We have 2 crews, 24/7, all times in the Newport station. So that's which is better than where we were before. We used to have a full-time crew, and then we had another 12-hour crew during the day, and then we had an on-call crew at night in addition to that. But we have 2 full-time 24/7 crews now. So we have more crews there. And we have a 3rd crew on 12 hours and another 3rd crew on call up at night. So we have an additional crew.
Wow.
We're going to have a crew in Morgan. We have lowered the number of list assist calls to local fire departments as a result of that because we have more people. We haven't dropped a call since July, which is great. We've done a lot of mutual aid calls for other people, but we haven't relied on them for any. We've answered all our calls, including
This morning we were able to
today
move 5 trucks
here.
to Newport
To
Center.
Newport Center.
All four calls
Yeah.
went to Newport Center,
Yeah.
and we were able to still keep the other areas
Multi-car
covered.
accident.
And that's
5 patients, and we were able to cover them all.
Yeah, that was. I got a text from Michael this morning. We're sending 4 crews to Newport Center for an accident. I'm sitting there going, "Wow, what are we doing?" He said, "Well, we have a 5th crew coming in. We just happen to have an ambulance here."
Yeah.
Because we don't have 5 ambulances as a rule, but we had one from the Johnson
Mhm.
Bay that had just got worked on at Hayes Ford, so it was sitting there waiting to be transported. So we used it. So I mean, that's the beauty. That's the beauty of having. I mean, there's no such thing as having one ambulance that's going to cover you, and that's a perfect example of, when you talk about cost. Your cost is your availability. So being able to put 4 people up there is pretty amazing. Did it all ourselves, not calling anybody else out. So the net result of this is that we've responded to 2,022 calls as of this morning for the year. And we have handled as many as 18 calls in a day. without a problem. We have more people now. We're paying less overtime because we have full-time people in place. We have per diem people that we have picked up. In some of the squads that folded, we picked up some of their people. We've been training people. But we saw this coming last year when we came to you guys with a substantial increase because, I mean, we saw the writing on the wall that ambulances were not going to be able to succeed. We were going to have to make sure we had enough people to cover because we couldn't rely on those outlying crews to cover for us anymore. That's what we've done. The net result of that at this point is we're in the best place we've ever been. And our cost to you, our increase that we're asking this year, you're going to see is pretty small. I think last year, I know in the discussions we had with all the towns is we said we took a lower amount of dollars than what thought we were going to need, requesting and saying we're probably going to come back to you for the next 3 years with 10% increase each year for 3 years, and that's why we'd get back to where we are. Well, we're not going to be doing that. We're coming in as well. So if you see the figures there, we're less than 3%. I think for you guys it's what, $1,700 or something.
So there was a meeting that I had attended with you in Derby, the legislators, Dr. Benelli,
Yep.
the state. Nothing ever came of it.
Well, they want to have another one, in about
This-
3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah,
from
all of a
now.
sudden they,
And
after everything started to settle, now all of a sudden the NVDA wants to start getting more involved again. So there will be another one coming up.
I won't attend that.
Well, I mean, we told
I
them
think
basically,
the city of Newport said the same thing.
yeah, I said, it's a little too late. They had committees that they set up that were going to work on all these issues. And what happened is Newport Ambulance Service, not to pat ourselves on the back, but we solved all the problems.
Right.
So I don't know why they want a meeting now, but we'll go if they want to have one.
Your dispatch problem's been solved by Newport taking over.
Dispatch is amazing. Newport,
Newport's taken over and
Newport's taken over.
Yeah.
We're paying them extra to do it, and I'll tell you what, it's the best thing that's ever happened.
Yeah.
Because they know.
Yeah, I mean, they CAD, they put us on phone, they map us, VSP doesn't do that. So Newport PD,
right.
if we're coming out here and we're, all right, which, School Street, next thing you know, it's a map on my phone and they'll actually come right up and tell me the color of the house if they have it on their E911.
Yeah.
They work with us. They're really good.
They're not sending us to the wrong town or the wrong street or the wrong address. And that was happening prior.
Oh, I know.
So they're
Sorry to interrupt.
they've been amazing.
Hello?
So that's the involvement of there. So now we're doing all of those towns, and we've split it up as best we could. So if you got questions on that, I'll answer. If not, we'll just kind of get to the budget.
The other thing is we've upped our certification level. We now have 3 full-time paramedics on board. Will cover us 4 24-hour shifts and daytime overlay with paramedic, which is a big advantage.
That's right here in Newport.
Right out of Newport.
Yeah.
So
I got a question. Okay, first number, town contracts.
Mhm.
354,000 change.
Yep.
What towns? Is it all of you
Right here.
towns?
This page I gave you
Okay, all right,
gives
okay.
you the breakdown for every town.
Okay, yeah, I got it, I see that.
Oh,
Let me see,
you
let me see
no,
one
you
more
don't
time.
have that.
Okay, so this is per capita, right? So how do you determine
Well, it's the total based on per capita, yes.
total, how do you determine per capita? Is it based on, per capita, what is per
We
capita?
go by their census.
Go by the census. I know that makes sense. How do you determine the cost per person, per capita? What expenses,
We
per
take-
capita, wait a minute, per capita means what a person spends per person, what you spend. So my thing is, your expenditures involve a big, huge organization. It is not specifically our town, what you need, what the expenses are to our town. It's for your whole operation, which is all towns. So technically, what we pay you is going to help other towns and as well as advancement. I ask how much money goes to advancement as opposed to expenses? That's another question. You are using it for advancement, to grow your company, correct?
No.
Says in your contract,
Since we can.
huh?
The growth of Newport Ambulance means going to paramed service, maybe advanced EMT, better coverage for you, but it's not growing our service and at your expense to somebody else. I just explained when we took on these other towns, we split them off and charged them the expense of the cost to do their town. It's not costing Newport Center anything.
Well, the way I
And
see
the
it,
way we do it, I'll tell you exactly how we do it. We do our expenses for the year, and we anticipate our income based on past history, because if you can tell me how many calls I'm gonna have tomorrow and how much which one of those are gonna pay me, Medicare, Medicaid, private insurance, or nobody, then then you're a genius. But we don't know that. We can only take it off from our base. So
It's the same as we do our budget.
Sure, we anticipate our income, and we figure our expenses, and what we don't have in income to cover our expenses goes into what we ask the towns, and we divide the towns per capita, which we figured is the fairest way to do it. Per capita meaning you have 1,000 residents, Newport has 5,000, Derby has 5,000. They're gonna pay a higher rate than you. We're gonna divide the per capita, the amount of on the census into that dollar amount that we need to cover, and it comes out to 29. I don't even have that figure. It's not on here. But $29.82 or something like that.
And you treated all towns.
All towns are treated the same.
So it's kind
Well,
of like,
I'll take that back. The substation pays more because it's more expensive to do the rural towns because they have less calls. So their call volume is much less than you actually, Newport Center benefits from having Newport and Derby in there because the call volume is heavy from them, and we get a lot more income from them. So I think it's a benefit for you to be in with more call volume. The proof in the pudding is you take the other towns that I talked about. They're more rural. They don't have as many calls. We still have to provide the service, and if we're not rolling and being able to bill Medicare, Medicaid, private insurance, then that expense all goes to the town. So those towns, because they have less calls, cost the same amount of money to put an ambulance and a crew in Morgan as it does in Newport. They don't generate as much income. So their cost per capita is 34 or something. I don't know why I don't have that.
so that's kind
Yeah.
of like what the courthouse does. That's how we pay our county tax. Mr.
Yeah, that's a
Dustin.
pretty standard way. I mean, some towns do it by grand list. I don't know if you'd be any better off doing that. We kind of looked at it. Some some squads do a combination of grand list and per cap. But this is the way we've always done it.
Mr. Best has a
Seems pretty
question.
fair.
We have a question from Mr. Best.
How many runs a year do you average in Newport Town?
As of this morning, it's tough because the way we put into our sirens, it comes by mail-in address. So not all mail-in addresses are Newport Town. Some of them, Newport City.
Right. Strawberry Acres.
Yeah, so all the Lake Road and stuff like that. But the ones that are classed as Newport Town as of this morning was 86 911 calls.
That's this year alone. so
That was
far?
just this year alone, minus actually the 5 we had, so we're up over 90.
how many emergency? How many?
That's
Those
911
91
calls.
emergencies?
Those are 911 calls.
And not including transport.
That's not including the transports out of North Country. That's something separate that we will do also for your residents. We do all the emergent transfers out of North Country. And with this new way we've structured, we still keep 2 crews in the area at all times.
Yeah.
So one thing you'll never hear, what you heard in the past was, station uncovered, we're doing a transfer. We don't do that anymore.
How much do you charge for an ambulance ride? I'm on Medicare. If I have to call from what to what? From 800 to 12? Okay, I'm here. I have a heart attack. How much?
So it depends on what level of service you get. Depends what's done.
Okay, lowest to highest.
I do not do the billing,
Okay.
so I actually
I
have
don't know
no
if I
idea, to be honest.
Nobody
I'm more
knows.
operations.
Okay.
But I
So
can tell you this. I heard your comment earlier. We accept Medicare payment as full payment. We don't ever charge anybody over and above that. So
Okay,
that
that's
was-
good to
that
hear.
That was what you said earlier, that we send you a bill on top of that's not true.
Okay, I appreciate that. I mean, I always thought that, I didn't like the way that felt, and, you know,
We don't-
having,
well, I
knowing
don't know, I
that.
don't know how it felt because we've never done it. We've never done that. We accept Medicare and Medicaid as full payment, no matter what they pay.
I got you on a
Pri-
videotape saying
I
that
don't
you,
care. That's fine. Private pay is different. Private pay, you're buying your own insurance. Your insurance, if it's not covered by your deductible, then you get a bill.
okay, I'm glad to hear that. I asked you last year, and that was the reason why Steve threw me out, because you said, yes, we do bill. I got it on a videotape. You deny it one more time, I'll put it against this tape. And, okay, it's changed though, that's good. Okay, you
No,
don't
it
get,
hasn't changed. It's always been that.
I have a question from the audience.
No, I just want to clarify something. I'm a Medicare specialist. There's a balanced billing law in Vermont, as there is in quite a few states. They cannot, for Medicare recipients and Medicaid, they cannot charge above what Medicare approves. So if Medicare approves $1,000 and their bill's $1,500, they cannot charge you the additional $500. That's a law.
Is that something new?
that's
No,
great.
no.
No.
That's
Great,
balanced.
great.
That balanced billing law has been on the books for quite a while. Vermont started that. Now there's only 5 states that do not have those types of laws on the books.
That's good, because I wasn't gonna ever call an ambulance again.
We also, people don't have the means to pay. We write it off. So,
Okay, back to,
anyways, yes. Okay, so the budget, basically, you're gonna look at it, the net effect, if you go to the expense part, which is on the, the top part, there's a total income that we anticipate. And on the bottom part, there's a total expense for 2019. Go to the very last page in the total expense. You'll see it's down $43,000 to you so our expenses, our anticipated income is down a little bit also, but that's just because we know where we're at from last year. But that part of that is because of the part of that's probably because of the substation. So we percentaged out our administrator, our billing. I know I got that. So you know how we did it. We did billing, administrative, and interest expense, and put 13% of that cost into the Derby substation because Jeff's the administrator. And for Newport,
Morgan substation.
Morgan.
Into the Morgan substation. So we took some of that's why the expense is down, because they're paying 13% of those expenses now, which last year was being paid totally by, and that's part of how we can keep our costs down, our increase.
So you're
We
gonna,
gave all of our people $1 an hour raise last year. We're probably gonna do it again this year because we're trying to get them up to snuff. Some of them a starting EMT was getting less than $15 an hour, and the big rage in Vermont is to pay everybody $15 an hour, and we wanted to get there before we were mandated to do it. We also give them health care, we give them pension, we give them a lot of time off. Pay expenses, but
High stress job. If you don't,
it's a tough.
They're gonna quit.
It's an awful tough job, and we're doing our best. And I think we discussed that last year. That it's part of why we're going up. We're having trouble keeping people. So we've resolved all that. That's why I said we're in a better position than we've been for a long time. So even with all of that, we've still managed to keep. We're asking you for. $1,300 more. It's not a lot. It's not a lot more money. Gone from $45,922. This year, what we'd like you to put into your budget is $47,294. So what is that? $1,300?
this is your formal request, right?
That's our formal request. So that's what we're we're asking for.
And the,
All of the budget items down here, I'll try to address something. Our budget items are all pretty transparent here. Says exactly what our cost is for everything that we do. So, it's pretty well broken out.
So do you, on the contract, do you have a copy?
No,
Like said that they,
we didn't bring I mean, he didn't send you one yet. We didn't because in the past, the contract hasn't changed other than
It should.
dollar amount.
If you want us,
Dollar
to-
amount.
if you want us to sign that contract, there was language in there that you and I had worked through. And you agreed
Right.
to the changes.
Right, right. But you told us last year you wouldn't sign it till after the town meeting.
That is correct. Our contract is April 1st.
So that's why we didn't bring a contract for
Yes.
you to sign.
we
We
wait,
wouldn't sign
Because we
it
figured
anyway.
you wouldn't
No.
sign it anyways.
we wait, we
Yeah,
wait.
but
till-
you
I'm learning.
We're learning.
I
We're
remember
learning.
Mike said that.
We're learning.
The people
But-
have
but
to
if-
vote on it,
but
or
if-
we're not
But
signing
if you would
anything.
like a copy of it, emailed, we can email one to her with those
Changes.
that has been done.
Oh, okay.
That has
They were
been,
done last year.
they were done last year. We put an addendum on it.
Right.
And changed it
Okay.
last year, and I think he rewrote it and sent it out.
So the contract stays the same except for the dates and the price.
Yeah, the only thing, yes, kinda. The only thing we're asking, and we've asked it in all communities, and it's something we discussed at the meeting the other day. The one issue that we have somewhat is cash flow. And because everybody
Here?
pays us. Huh?
With this town?
Let him tell.
No.
No.
As a service, because we're on a calendar year service. And you guys are set up for a payment schedule that's,
Once a quarter.
well, but it doesn't start till July, right? It's 4 payments after July.
Right, I've got
To-
your third
to
payment
December.
here.
So that's nice. So, but,
So then whatever problem you have with other towns, you don't have here.
we don't actually.
He's waving that in
except
front of him.
We
Yeah.
would like it to be instead of quarterly, because you're on a fiscal year is July.
No, January.
January, I mean, yes, January, our fiscal year is January to December.
Okay. So,
We don't get approval till March.
right,
We've always, after it's been approved, we've always paid you. We have never waited till tax money came
I
in. To
understand
issue.
that.
We, you needed the money, we had it there for you because it had been approved by the voters.
So after March, so
Mhm.
starting April 1st or whatever, once it's approved, what we would like is for monthly payments from April to December. So we have a more of a steady flow of income coming in versus the first one is July now, right? So we haven't, and we're asking all the towns to work with us.
Will that ever
Yeah.
go to daily? I'm just, that's,
But you know what I'm saying?
I am.
It's tough because what happens is because of the quarterly part, we show a loss and operating expenses sometimes have to go into our line of credit because the towns aren't paying us until 6 months into our contract. So we're running the first 6 months without getting money from anybody. So now we're asking all of them, can you do a little different setup and our
Welcome to being a municipality.
I know. Our bookkeeper would prefer that we get paid monthly, same dollar amount to you.
What do you do with one of these towns that you go to and they approve it, they sign it, and they say, we're all good as gold. And come town meeting day, the voters don't approve it. What do you do then?
Well,
You're in default of the contract.
It must be.
I will, yeah, I mean, you'd be in fault of your contract, but the decision is the voters don't actually approve. And we've had this discussion,
Charlie, don't go there.
but, I mean, they approve your budget.
Yes.
They don't approve our budget.
No, not
They
your
don't
budget.
need to approve your budget.
I understand.
They need to approve what line item we
Yeah.
put on the agenda for town meeting.
So Mike, question, my comment to that, which he never likes, but I say it every year, is this is our contract. This is what it costs to do business with.
Mhm.
So at that point, that's something you have to decide as a town,
Right.
whether you
You're
don't
doing
want to pay
business
us.
with the town.
Yeah.
Not with the select. The select board was, voted in to do that business for them.
Yeah, all the other towns.
So inform.
This same comment comes up, all the other towns realize that the select board, if your budget's turned down, let's say they want $10,000 less,
Mhm.
they have to decide where that, the select board decides where that $10,000 comes from, not the.
Right.
So if we have a contract, we would like you to stay with our contract, and if you don't, then, I mean, we had this discussion before. I mean, if you want to cut us off at the knees at $20,000, we're probably going to tell you, well, you need to contract with somebody else, and you can maybe have Barry give you a contract and we'll do it. You know, because
We've
we
had-
can't afford
We've
it.
had that discussion. You finally are realizing where the money comes
I
from.
know where the money comes.
Okay.
I'm just
We just don't spend it until we get it.
right, and we can't provide the service unless we have
If
the money.
we weren't sitting here, you'd be at town meeting telling this to everybody there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well, and we
hoping they
show
would
up
vote
at
it.
town meeting
I
every year.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yes, you
So-
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if there's questions, we'll be glad to answer them.
Okay.
So, I mean, we're spread a little thin now because we've got,
So many
you know,
towns.
10 towns, and we got 10 town meetings, there's only 3 of us.
Can't roll an ambulance in every town?
Well, there's only 3 of us that really have all this stuff down, you know, so, well, it makes it a little tough. We got Mike running to 3 or 4 different ones, but
So you are going to forward a contract to the news.
yes,
Okay.
for you to review. And then what I would, I guess at that point, if you have questions with the contract, it's gonna be the exact same word as last year. The only thing is, in there is a thing about payment schedule. So that's the only thing
I'll read it
I would like.
and we might have a conversation.
Can we put in the monthly, what we request and go from there? Or-
Yeah, what's the difference quarterly or monthly for us? It's the same dollar
Well,
amount.
that's what I'm thinking. The same dollar amount. For us, it's huge then,
Yeah.
because we don't.
If it's approved by the voters, then you take that 47,000, divide it by 12 and,
Well, it wouldn't be 12,
It'd be
it would be 9.
oh, okay, 9,
Yeah,
yes.
because you gotta wait, because we start January, we're rolling for you January 1st, whether you've
But you still got
approved it or
January
not.
to March to cover.
Yeah.
We still have January to March to cover.
You do.
Right.
Yeah, and we had this discussion last year,
Yeah,
even if
and we
they,
paid you for it.
yes, you did, yes, and we appreciate it.
Thank you. So you really don't have an issue here.
No,
You're trying to bring up the issue of other towns in this town.
No, I don't
Let's
think
just-
it's bringing up anything.
Let's just let it go.
It wasn't
Now,
bringing up
Would
anything.
you cut us a deal if we cut you the check April 1st for the whole year?
I'd give you like $12 back.
$12 whole dollars. Wow.
I don't know, what do you?
Jeff, you want this?
Yeah,
I'll bring that to the-
Mike
give
actually
it-
almost broke my wrist last year trying to
Yeah.
get that.
yeah, give that to Cookie, Cookie will love you. And
One thing Charlie didn't say, you know, we try to keep the cost down by applying for grants, everything like that. We just got a USDA grant for new Zoll monitors. We had our monitors were outdated. They're $36,000 a piece. And we got 6 of them through USDA. I think it was a 50-50 match. So, I mean, it's a pretty good deal right there. We apply for grants all the time. Columbia Forest Products gives us $1,000 equipment cart in the last 3 years has been $1,000 pediatric cart seat every year. You know, we appreciate that from them, but we try to, reach out and get stuff like that also, because if we would have got that USDA grant, we would have been looking for, another $180,000 somehow to replace that stuff.
That's always good.
Yeah,
I mean, we
it is.
basically figured that coming in at under 3% from a reduced budget from what we requested last year to begin with. So,
Well,
would
just to
you guys would be,
and I understand.
jumping for joy and clicking your heels in the street.
Just to share with you, I was hoping that we were gonna only take on maybe Derby and a little bit more, and then it would really have reduced our costs. So instead of going to 47, it would have dropped it to 43.
Yeah. Actually, Derby is included in your
But you
So they
did,
it did
you-
reduce.
the language in the contract, you did change. There was a section in there about, the money was going back to the growth of NAS. And I wanted that part changed
And it
in our
was.
contract, right,
Yeah.
to reflect that it was a decision of your board.
Our board on
Where that money
on where
would
the
go.
funds go, and
Right.
we did change that.
I do
wording.
believe so.
Perfect. Great.
And
Thank you.
I'll make sure,
Yeah, you'll
Okay.
double check.
So I don't know if you vote on this dollar amount tonight. I see you on your agenda, it says vote.
No,
If you vote to put it into your budget, or you just put it
No.
in your budget?
we're going to take that as a consideration. It has come to, I haven't heard that personally, but I've heard that there may be an ambulance service starting up and they may bring a proposal to us or whatever. We will consider all of those things
Absolutely.
prior to town meeting. And then it's our responsibility as a select board to put the best thing forward to the public for a vote. So we will weigh all that stuff. If we have any questions when we get this, you'll be back before us.
There you go.
How's that?
That works for me.
Good.
If you're not in Florida.
Jeff, thank you.
Well, if I am,
Charlie, it's always a pleasure.
That's always a pleasure.
Tuesday, we go back to school board day.
I can tell.
We'll do it.
It's not my fondest memory.
Tuesday, 13th.
You wanna ride with me?
I will.
I've got to go. If they're having the meeting, I've got to go. But it will, if they got you on the agenda for 7,
Yeah.
I am on the executive committee, so that starts at 5:30. So you have to leave.
You gonna buy me lunch?
There might be a slice of pizza. I'll call you. Yep, thank you.
Jack over?
I'm sorry, Jack, we run over a little bit.
I kind of figured with Charlie and it'd be a good
10 minutes.
You remember him,
Charlie. Good job.
Thank you for being on time. It's our fault that we're not.
His fault.
Not to bury.
That's the hardest thing. I followed him at the city meeting the other night. That was an hour late.
Oh, geez.
We always put him behind you.
You might have to reschedule
Did
that.
you hear him? He's telling you, stop complaining.
You wind it?
No.
Good night.
Nice, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, this actually is not gonna hurt very much. I can't give you good news like I did last year, because unfortunately, the thing, there's no other company to go to. Premiums are going up very little. MV, $11 a month. For couples, $22 a month, and for parent and children is $21 and change a month. We do have a Medicare person on Medicare. There's no change in the Medicare supplement premium, but there is a slight change in the RX plan, in the Part D RX plan. One of them is going up by $4.80, and the other one going up by $1.90. So your total increase monthly is going to be $61.52 for the whole group. That's for everybody.
Monthly.
Monthly, yeah. Which is that same plan with Blue Cross and Blue Shield. You're looking at about $50 a month for just that one plan, one person. Same difference in price. That's why MVP is still the company to go with. I don't know.
They said on television that they're growing.
Oh, they're growing like crazy. Last year we had a little bit of a glitch last January and February because they grew so fast by virtue of the spread. And this year the spread's even bigger. So I think we're going to have a glitch again in January with any of the new accounts that we put in here, because of the fact that it's just, you know, when you're talking that kind of a difference, 25% or so difference in price for the same plan.
So there's only 2 players in
There's
Vermont.
only 2. Well, there's a third one. Well, it's still Blue Cross and Blue Shield, but VACE, which is a chamber, has gotten bed with Blue Cross this year. They used to be with them before ACA, before Obamacare. They worked out a deal with them. They've got 4 plans. The premiums are still higher than these, a little bit lower than the regular Blue Cross, but they're still higher than these. And the plans are tweaked. They're not as good as these. So I don't know what they were thinking when they did that. I used to be on the VACE board, and you know, why they got in bed with, they never went to MVP at all. They got in bed with Blue Cross, and I don't know, I don't think they're gonna get the takers. A few years ago, remember, I think everybody was going through the chamber because it was such a great deal with Cigna. And that went away when Cigna pulled out of the state. So there's basically only two players, only two companies. There's three different options, but there's only two companies.
Have you used MVP?
I have not.
Have you?
No, he's on Medicare. Right?
I'm on Medicare.
He's on Medicare. Yeah, he gets 100% coverage for a lot less money than she does, about half the cost, really. Remember, that's what last year I said we saved a lot of money.
Okay.
But that's, you know, what I do have for you to give one for you and for that's exactly the changes in the plan,
Okay,
which are very minor.
Fred, you can give one of these to Mike and Dan.
You know, give those to the guys so they'll see the difference. Yeah, the deductible's going up $50, and the out of pocket's going up $50. So it's still, you know, not much changes. Other than that, everything else is pretty much the same.
So Dan's on insurance, Mike's on insurance, you're on
Yeah.
insurance, and you're on insurance.
Must
That's it?
be,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
The four
must be
people.
all insurances and deductibles are going up, because mine is.
They-
just got a
they-
note on it.
yeah. They all went up a little bit. The only one that
$5
did,
for the deductible,
Yeah.
$25 for emergency room,
Yes,
$10 for specialist.
something like
It's
that,
all
yeah.
going up.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
see, like in this case, the plan that they have, the only thing that did go up is the deductible. There's still $10 for doctor's visits and all that. The other thing that went up, in that across the board for everybody, because the state that went up, is the maximum out of pocket for medication. It was 12, went to 13. This year it's going to 13.50. Once somebody spent that kind of money, their drugs are covered 100%, and that's for all the plans, and that's for everybody. That's the state law.
I hope to never get to that point.
Oh, I get a lot of people that do.
Oh, I know.
Uh,
That's one of the biggest expenses for.
Any other questions for?
I don't know.
No.
I think we get fairly good coverage.
Find it real well, and
You're all set?
that's reasonable.
Okay.
Thank you.
That was simple
I
enough.
really appreciate you coming and
Yeah.
explaining it.
No, not a problem.
Thank you, Jeff.
And you guys,
You'll be in touch.
yeah, this week. If you have any questions, and the guys all have my cards anyway, so
Yeah, it'll
You'll be in touch
renew
with me.
automatically anyway.
yeah, you'll automatically renew. Same with yours. I mean, I talked with Annette
Yeah,
today,
he told me to.
and totally, there's no
They keep
changes.
advertising on TV, you gotta get involved in it.
Yeah.
I said, you better call them, I said,
No,
find out what's going on.
Because I do that anyway. I always check.
Yeah, I
Especially when
appreciate
the Medicare receipt, I always check the Part D, because that's, matter of fact, we had a couple of companies. In fact, the company you're with, I've had to move a lot of people out, but in your particular case, it's still the best one for you to be in, because their premium went up $4. Yeah. But other than that, I mean, it's been pretty good.
That's good.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
Good.
Thank you,
very
Jack.
Thank you.
Go stay home.
much. Fred?
I'll get the radar sign.
Yeah, I've done a lot of research, me and Mike both on that. Radar feedback. Right now, I'm waiting on the sheriff department. I called him day before yesterday, and they're supposed to, he was gonna talk to the deputy, and they hadn't printed me up, no, I got that survey done, traffic survey, but I haven't received anything on it yet. And the money you allowed us to do anything, but there weren't enough money.
No, I know that.
And then we talked about, well, you and Mike, or whatever, somebody talked about those portable signs go up on the road.
Well, I didn't know the sheriff's department runs one around. But
Yeah.
That's a speed car.
But you can only
big
put
guy.
it out for 2 weeks at a
Yeah.
period. And you gotta, 2 weeks at a time, so you can put it out. And you gotta get permits, and even these other signs, we've gotta go through the state and get permits, and so we wanna know where you guys wanna go with it, if you wanna wait till this year and put something in the budget, or.
Yeah, well, obviously it's not gonna get done.
Oh,
now
it's
before
getting
winter.
late,
We
the state
didn't,
ain't gonna let you,
we didn't fund enough money for
no,
it.
no,
It's a discussion we'll have when we're putting a budget together
Right.
for next
Right.
year.
that's what I figured,
Take the money we've got, add some more to it, and then in the spring.
and do some thinking on it, you
And if
know,
we
and-
get the pertinent information back, I know Mike had forwarded me all the requirements.
we're gonna put a lot
Signs
right
in
here,
place,
Yeah.
And my stomach just.
Oh, I know. I didn't realize there was that much to it.
Me either.
oh, there really
Me
is.
Yep.
And I brought this in, you guys can read it, whatever. And it's,
I've-
I haven't got copies.
I've read a lot of the stuff online that
Okay.
Denise forwarded it to me, or Mike.
Yeah,
did.
if Mike gives you.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was that intense.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of, you gotta get a permit, and then the price for the permit,
Yeah,
quite a lot to it.
I saw that.
There was somebody where it just couldn't happen, you know, it's,
Nothing simple in water.
no,
well, it's, I don't know. And where we go with it, you know. And so that's that.
Mhm.
Okay. I had to take a truck to Westminster there this past month. We had, their body had a defect in it. I don't know if you guys were familiar with that, but
No?
Viking came in, they told us there was a defect, so they lost a couple of men and they didn't have time to fix the body. So they scheduled us down in Westminster, so we had to take it down there. They fixed it down there, no charge. Then we had to go back and get it, we had to leave it.
did it get hauled down there? Or did you drive?
No,
it
we
down?
drove it down. We drove it down.
So it's fixed now?
It's supposed to be, you know, Viking backed it 100%, they backed it with the Freightliner garage down there. So we got that taken care of.
A long haul just to get it fixed, huh?
For 5 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
5, 6 hours, depends, you know, on the travel speed or whatever. Yeah. Then we got back and we had another issue, the engine light came on, but that was minor. We put that in the car. And just some wires had come unplugged or got unplugged somehow. And there was no charge on that, so that was a good.
Okay.
That's about all I got. The water is supposedly doing good. We're over there with Mike today, everything seems to be working good.
Yeah, tomorrow they're gonna be here to,
My understanding, yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, that's what I should get there. Monday and Tuesday will be better weather.
Tri-State. Jason, the engineer from Aldrich and Elliott, had notified Neil 3 or 4 different times about today or tomorrow's date on having come up here to pull the pumps out to change the transducers. And Neil has yet to respond
Right.
to any of his emails. So Jason said, I don't know if he's coming or not.
Yeah.
And
The purpose of
and
doing that?
the reason for having Tri-State was because all of the players that actually put the system in would be there, so that one can't say, well, it's his fault. You know, he is going to be there, so they can have that discussion.
Yeah.
So, but Neil just, I don't know what's going on with Tri-State. So it may happen tomorrow and it may not happen tomorrow. We don't know. If it doesn't happen, Jason said if it doesn't happen tomorrow, it will happen next week. And he said, I'll get back to you with a date. I wanted those wells fixed prior to winter coming.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. And I explained that to USDA. I said, you know, the transducers failed saying that there was water in the wells. If the transducers had failed saying that there was no water in the well, we would not have been allowed to pump water. Even though there was water there, we would not have been, we would have had to haul water again. So I wasn't pleased, but they all know we're not happy. So Denise was there at the meeting and it was, and you know, we're all concerned.
Thing I noticed out there, I happened to be out there, there's like cement boxes. I
Yeah.
don't know if they're shut offs or whatever. One was fairly close to the bridge where the snowmobiles are gonna cross.
If you haven't been able to look at them,
And if you're out there, or Mike, maybe
Yeah.
wanna check it and put a post by it.
they
don't-
should be all marked anyhow.
Yeah, there's
And
nothing,
they were supposed to mark them.
there wasn't before, but I
there
noticed them,
aren't either,
and I
but-
said, you know, if that drag hits it and breaks something, it could be
But
bad.
my understanding, they were
So-
supposed to mark them.
It might be something to Mike to bring up to him.
Worth bringing a grade stake out there or something, marking.
Well,
it.
you've got about 20 of them out there, my understanding, you're gonna be marked. You're gonna mark one, you're gonna mark them all, because they're gonna mow hay there.
And
Oh,
I
the
And
hay,
there's
yes.
traffic around there.
probably should have said something long
There's
before
square
then.
blocks, I guess, yeah.
But I wasn't impressed with,
And it's where they can
Pretty
take the
rough.
wire.
I'm
The
gonna be
wires
out
run
there
down.
tomorrow.
the ground is pretty rough. especially beyond that bridge down to that second well. I would have thought it would have been a lot smoother than that. The guy didn't hay it, but I'm assuming
Yeah.
it's because it's so rough.
But we don't drive down there, Gary. 'cause
No,
we,
but it's
yeah,
rough.
Yeah, I
I
understand.
would have, you know, I mean, you back drag with a bulldozer and make it smoother than what it is there, I would think. But anyway, that was the only thing I had.
Okay.
We did get our paving done. Bob's happy. He's very happy. Well, that's good. And,
That was awful late in the season.
Yeah.
It
I
did.
agree.
I drove by and I stopped and looked at it and I said, oh man, it'd been nice if it'd been warmer.
Next year, when we do a contract
End
with
date.
them in May or June, there is gonna be an end date, a completion date
Or
Yes.
penalty
or penalty, so much a day.
subtracted
After that.
from that, right?
Exactly.
I
We need to do
always
that.
already thought that. That was
I
just,
know, and I called, and, well, you know, Norman, lost his parents, so that,
Well, it's,
you know, and I'm not trying to find excuses for him, because it is quite out there.
Yeah.
I dealt with him years ago and it isn't Norman. Norman has good faith.
He does
Is
have
here,
good faith.
Yes.
he's the salesman for him.
Yeah.
But then he has bosses that want Chittenden County and these places pushed ahead
And they've really changed,
because of politics.
yeah, they've really changed.
So you have to,
asphalt goes down when it's warmer.
it's
Absolutely.
much better. Well, the thing of it is, we have the money, we're ready to do it, and we're at the end of the season. It doesn't make sense.
No, I don't.
Cause all
And-
these other projects, they probably won't get their money till next year.
And we,
You know, that's the
It's
part that
true.
really bugs you.
That is true.
It's,
and I mean, I can understand that on the, maybe there was 50 towns ahead of us that approved, but I
No,
don't think
no,
so.
no.
Oh, what do you think about our bridge in Derby?
Yeah, we were early enough, so we should have been first on
Yeah.
the thing.
And
we
there's
were-
going to be another, there is another paving company in the area now. So Hutchins.
Well, he bid last year.
Yeah,
It
he
was a
did.
lot higher.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of work now around the area and.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
So he's just paving that one in Derby.
Anything else, Fred?
No, I'm pretty well set.
I got a couple of
Okay.
concerns
That's
for speed signs.
Speed line, yeah.
Yeah, for some reason, that one that was down by the old Pouliot house on the lake, on the Vance Hill,
Yeah.
that's gone. I don't know.
For real, they steal them.
No, the pole and everything's
Oh,
gone.
yeah, they steal them.
All right, well, there needs to be another one there.
Well, I do.
Okay.
Well, as long as I hear them, I put them in.
But
Well,
what the issue he's bringing up is that the sheriffs have been asked to patrol the roads.
Yeah.
And without proper signage, the speed limit, you know, and that may be corrected here, but in this state, it says 50 miles an hour unless otherwise posted.
Right, right.
So the police don't see a sign, so.
But I have got some, I got a lot of faded.
Okay,
You can't see them. And I
Yes.
just ordered, if you look at my
Yeah.
work order there, I ordered, I think 10 or 12.
okay.
Going out the crossroad,
Yeah.
there isn't one at all going all the way out to 105. Okay, so.
They used to be,
Oh,
no,
they used to be there. Oh, I
they were-
know
they
they
were
did.
my-
These are all good money makers for us. The
Yeah,
crossroad
I
at
understand
50
that.
is a good,
we do try to keep them up. I've
Okay.
just got a
Yeah,
bunch of
well, no,
top
that's why I'm bringing it up. That's
Yeah.
the only reason I said that is because I mentioned it to the sheriff's department the other day about patrolling, you know,
Yeah.
as we get closer to fall and stuff, you know, Vance Hill seems to be a great school.
What
Back
time
and
did you
forth.
tell them to patrol, just so we could have that down?
Yeah, because we have two people here that, you know, good thing Bob put his vet up and we have a town clerk that likes to speed.
Yeah.
Except for the bottom of it.
Yep.
all right.
Saw a
Anything
pickup
else,
truck
Rick?
on the Van Hill the other day, a four-wheel drive Ford pickup truck all jacked up. You had to be doing 80.
Oh,
coming
crazy.
underneath the bridge.
Yeah, and was it loud?
Very loud.
Yeah, it went by here.
I'd like to see that Collins Mill Road pull on. You know, people watch it, the cops up there.
I'm
Yeah.
going up the hill
Wow.
40 miles an hour on my truck and a four-wheeler goes by.
Oh, yeah.
Now, four-wheelers aren't, roads are all closed.
They are
Trails all
closed. I had one go by me at the recycle on Wednesday afternoon.
Yellow one.
No,
So I'm just,
no. it wasn't
That
yellow.
one came
really a
on Bud
direct
Road, just like
violation
past me.
of the rules.
I was coming 50 miles an hour and he passed me. He went all the way through the tail. Right on there.
Okay, anything
But
else, Fred?
no.
Jerry, you got anything for Fred? All right. Water, sewer, solar panel update?
Water and sewer, So the water we know, and the sewer, as far as I know, has been good.
Good.
They haven't had any complaints.
All right, if we don't have anything else on that, you gonna be around tomorrow up there, or if they come?
For a while, I'll be there at 10:30. If they don't show up by then, well, somebody's gonna have to call me. But I can put a key in the door, you know, 'cause I got a key. The Mike's gonna be gone.
Okay,
He's in Maryland.
okay,
But we talked about that, and I've got extra keys over there, and I can put one in the door, and if they come,
So it better not snow. Like,
well, we go there.
that's the first I heard about it.
No, we'll be all good all next week.
If you need me, call me.
But then he's coming,
Rain.
but then he's coming back in 3 days, leaving for 9.
thank
Wish
you,
I had that much time off.
thank you, Fred.
If you
We
need me,
have,
call me.
The delinquent
All
tax
you gotta do is
collector is up.
retire and then you have all every
It's
day.
coming,
Yeah.
it's coming, don't push it.
I'm
Okay.
not pushing, I'm just saying.
Delinquent tax collector is up.
Think about it more every
Oh,
day.
that's on the,
It's great.
you guys bought a trailer? And that was on the 2017 tax sale,
Mm-hmm,
and nobody redeemed it. So on October 16th, you guys acquired that mobile home.
mm-hmm,
Now, according to the, Bill Davies, who does our tax sales, he said that the board can, decline to accept the bill of sale from the delinquent tax collector.
Okay.
Meaning to say if the mobile home is, so it's an unlanded mobile home, there's no land with it. He said if there's no, if it has no value, you guys have the option to say.
one of you guys went out and viewed or both?
I went up and looked at it,
And I went up and took pictures.
Okay,
and it is not worth anything.
okay,
I
You
think
need
if
a
you tried to
formal
pick it
motion?
up and move it, it would just fall apart.
It'd be like when they bought into tail that time and back end fell right off that.
then I make a motion that we decline the bill of sale on the mobile home from the delinquent tax collector.
I'll second it.
Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Motion carries.
The back wall is already starting to fall right out of it.
Yeah.
What I
Yeah,
saw.
they got, actually Rick brought me pictures. 3 pictures of it.
So at this point,
See?
oh,
Yeah.
nice. So,
At this point,
I walked around it, but I didn't dare to go in it.
I can let Tom Collins know it's on his land, so he can do what he wants with it.
Okay. because we gave up our rights to it, it now becomes whose ever's land it's sitting.
Landowner's problem.
Perfect.
If we took it, it's gonna cost us more than.
So you're gonna have to have somebody tear it all down, just destroy it.
Yeah.
Throw it away anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
With all the money.
All
Thank
right.
you, Fred.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you Monday, Fred.
Sign orders, review and approve bank statement, journal entry. I've done that. You didn't have any issues with any of that stuff?
No.
Any unfinished or new business?
Nope.
We don't need an executive session. Motion to adjourn.
I'll make that.
I'll second it.
We're out of here.
You all ready for deer season?
Oh, ready as I'll ever be.
You